G'day everyone, DJ DARQs here. It's 8 PM on a Saturday. I just had a little bit of a nap, so my hair's all over the place. But somebody requested on the technique video that I made a few weeks ago to talk about my 2DX story. Now, it's not something which I really have spoken about in a lot of depth. A lot of people know, yeah, you've been playing for about 10 years, and you know, like, generally people have an idea of, like, how long I've been playing. But I thought today I'd spend a while just sort of fleshing out how I've come to progress as a player over the last decade. And that's a long time, a decade. Even longer, I think, honestly, when it comes to not just 2DX, but basically all music games. Now, obviously the focus will be on 2DX. I'll be using certain tools and certain captures to give you guys an idea of how 2DX has progressed for me over the years. And if you have any questions at any time, I'll answer them at the end of the stream. So yeah, feel free to ask me any question that you want after you've heard the story. But I guess let's just get straight into it. So, as you know, there's a lot of really good players. You see them, you go, wow, they're so good. They've been playing for so long. But I think the best way that I can encapsulate this is that all of those players are good for a reason, and it's not just how long they have played. I mean, you've got players like Siggy who've played for 13 years, who can't compete with players like Hexagon, who have been playing for a few years, and the reason why is just very clear. I want to quote Albert Einstein at this point, and he said, when it comes to being a genius, only 1% of that is actual genius, and 99% of that is effort. And that applies so relatively to 2DX. The people who are really good at 2DX are good not just because they've been playing for a long time, it's because they've really committed themselves to the game. Now, I wanted to point this out because, most people don't realize how much time I actually spent playing 2DX when I was younger. And I will explain to you just how much time I spent, or how long it's taken me to be able to get to the level that I am today. So, in order to start this story, we need to go way back, way back. We need to go back to the year 2000 and, what was it? 2002, I think. Yeah, 2002. Okay. Now, I need to point out to you guys, I'd never played any music games in my life. I played piano when I was younger. Okay, so I was used to hitting piano keys. I mean, big deal. Everyone plays an instrument at some point in their life. But I'd never really played any music games. I had friends who'd spoken about Beatmania. And they said, oh, there's this game that we played, and we were really cool because, it's really hard. It's called Beatmania, and, they used to play sim files from, really popular Japanese stars like Ayumi Hamasaki. So they're like, yeah, I'm really good at the Hayumi medley, and I was like, what the hell is this game? Like, I've never heard of this game Beatmania before, right? So one day when we were out to the video store, and this is back when video stores were huge, and you used to go and borrow your game from the video store for a week, I actually managed to find a copy of the only, original PlayStation, we're talking original PlayStation, a copy of Beatmania. It was just called Beatmania. It was released for the PlayStation, and it was the only PAL release of Beatmania ever released on this console. So I went, holy crap, this is the game that everyone was talking about. And I went, okay, if I borrow this, I can illegally make a copy of it. Because back then, the PlayStation had just finished, the PlayStation 2 was just ramping up. So I said, alright, I can make a copy of it and I can emulate it on my computer, because I had a PlayStation emulator. And I said, so I can practice playing Beatmania through that. And I went, okay, cool, so this is going to work out great. So I borrowed this game for a week, I burnt a copy of it, I used an emulator, and interestingly, like, this is when I can start talking about technique. So I never started with the 2DX controller, obviously, like most people didn't. I started with the keyboard, so I'm going to pull the keyboard across like so. Alright? Now, I had no idea how to tackle like hitting the buttons. Like I hadn't heard anything about freeform, I hadn't heard anything about techniques for this game. So when I first started tackling it, I went, okay, what am I going to do? Holy crap. Okay, so there's 5 buttons in a turntable. Remember, there's only 2 P-side, okay, because it's Beatmania. So what I did is I configured the keys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then F for scratching, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So A, so what is it? A, W, S, E, D, and F. So the way I used to play was I had my right hand on the bottom, my left hand on the top, like so. And I hit the buttons like that. Or was it the other way around? No, it was this way. Okay. And then I hit F with my pinky finger to scratch, like so. Okay. And this is back when I was 13. Okay. So 13 or 14. So obviously, you know, first Beatmania experience, I was amazed. I was like, wow, this game is amazing. And I was playing the easiest shit. I was playing Emotion. I was playing, what is it? Salamander Beat Crush Mix. Things like that. And I was like, oh my god. Like, I went from 1s to 2s and I went, this game is impossible. Like, how does anyone get good at this game? So, I played the original Beatmania, no controller, for about, I don't know, maybe a month. A month? Maybe 2. And, you know, I got through most of it. I cleared about, I don't know, 80% of the game. There was stuff which I absolutely couldn't tackle. For example, Man Machine Plays Jazz. Oh, fuck, that was impossible at that time. It was like the hardest thing in the world. So I was like, screw that. I'm never going to be able to pass that. So yeah, did the basic keyboard thing. After a month, I gave up. Because I was like, well, none of my friends actually know any of these songs, because I didn't realize they were playing BMSs of like custom-made people's stuff. So I basically just like gave up on it. I was like, okay, fuck. You know, everyone's not playing the same songs as me because I'm not cool. I got the non-cool version of the game, so I gave up. Alright. Now, obviously this was like the DDR era, so after that I completely left Beatmania, because obviously my friends were like, oh, you're playing a shit version of it. So I stopped playing, got into DDR like pretty massively. I started playing a lot of Stepmania, and around a year or 2 later, like, so I got decently good at DDR. You know, I cleared all the 10s, I did Max 300 and Paranoia and all that shit. And then I went, okay, so after this game, because like I got to the point where I could AAA everything on index, and I could clear everything with my feet on toes, and I was like, okay, so this game's getting pretty dull, because it's finished. Like, there's not going to be any more arcade releases. So I went, okay, so what comes after this game? Like, you know, DDR, where did all the players go? What are they doing now? And I heard a friend say, he was like, well, you know, after DDR, a lot of people move on to 2DX. And I said, what the hell is 2DX? Like, because our arcade, we had DDR, we had Guitar Freaks and Drum Mania, and we had Para, whatever it is. Not Para Paradise, the Dance Maniacs, that's the one where you hover over the sensors. So I was like, we don't have that. What the hell is 2DX? And he said, oh, you might not know it. It's called Beatmania 2DX. What? I've played Beatmania. Like, it's that one with the 5 keys, right? And he said, oh, no. Okay, Beatmania 2DX is the next generation, which we don't have, except for one place in Melbourne. And at the time, it was in, like, the biggest arcade, and no one played it and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay. That sounds interesting. So after that, I went online, and I went, okay, I'm going to start digging. I'm going to try and find a way that I can play this Beatmania 2DX game. And so I got back into it. I found, what's that simulator? I think it's Nazo BM? No, it's one more, like, one earlier than that. I found a really early simulator, like a really crappy one. And I downloaded some files, some custom files, and like the first thing, and this is going to amaze you guys, the thing which actually got me into 2DX is I went online I went looking. I said, okay, I want to see a video of this game, and I want to see, you know, who's playing it and what all of this stuff is about. So I'm gonna pull up the first thing I ever saw of Beatmania. Okay, and I hope they have it. Yes, they do. Alright, so I'm just gonna flip my cam very quickly to my screen capture. This is the first video I ever saw of 2DX. Yes, it was Lisu playing V, not another, this person got it wrong, V7 keys, right? And, you know, I'd come from DDR, where, you know, everything's very straightforward. It's like 8th notes the whole way through. I see this guy playing with one hand, doing this well, and I just said, oh my god, this game is absolutely crazy, you know? It's 30 seconds. He's already up to 300 notes. That's like the amount of notes a DDR song has. That's incredible. So I said, this game is absolutely awesome. When you look at the cabinet, when you look at the keys, when you look at like how beast he is, I was like, man, I gotta play that game. That looks freaking amazing. Okay, so I saw Lisu playing. I said, yeah, I've got to get into this game. I mean, it looks so much more complicated than 2DX. And obviously, you know, when he did the one-hand rolls, I was like, man, he makes it look so easy. So after that, I downloaded that shitty simulator. I started playing 5-key again. Okay. Now, okay, you don't have to see Lisu anymore. Bye-bye, Lisu. Thank you for showing off. Okay. So what actually happened was I went back to the keyboard. Fuck, my hand cam always stuffs up. I've got to stop swapping back. I'm gonna put this in overexposure mode, otherwise you're never gonna see anything. Alright, so apply. Okay, so I went back to the keyboard, because obviously I just picked up a simulator, and I went, okay, so we're gonna start playing this game. Alright, here we go. Wait, what the hell? The turntable's on the other side. So, because the simulator had come out in the 2DX generation, there's now left side and right side, and I went, wait, what the hell? The turntable's on the wrong side. It doesn't make any sense. So I had to relearn playing with the turntable on the other side. And obviously transitioning from 5-key to 7-key, I went, okay, so before I did this, so I'm just going to do the same thing. And then scratch. So that was my technique, like that, okay? Like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers style. So I had the 4 white keys on my right hand, the black keys on my left, and the turntable I hit with my left pinky finger. Yes, my left pinky finger. So it was an absolute mess. I was like, what the fuck? This makes no sense to me. So I at the time I was talking with Zythar. Zythar was massively into RPGs. Like we'd become decent friends by that stage. And Zythar had got into DDR with me, and then when I started exploring 2DX, Zythar also said, hey, wow, so this game's pretty neat, I'll try and get into it too. So we both started playing keyboard, BMS stuff, and Zythar, being Zythar, obviously started to research a bit more. He started to find information about it, and he actually educated me a lot about 2DX, okay? Like, we started on simulators. He went out, he found all of the really good BMS files. So he found the stuff by like Akito and Shiki and Onoken and all those amazing independent artists. So he introduced me to those really great files, like the original Bubba Blow, the original like Air, the original, what else did Shiki do? All of these really good songs, like original songs, and I went, wow, you know, the quality of this stuff compared to the crap I was playing before is just mind-blowing. So, you know, he got me into those. We didn't actually play any official 2DX for a long time, but Zythar became really devoted, and he actually was better than me when we first started, okay? And I went, wow, holy crap, how are you better than me? And I got really angry, because as a kid, I was really competitive, so I was like, hang on, how are you better than me? You know, I've been playing just as much as you have. And he was like, oh, it's because you're playing that stupid technique where you've got like one hand on top of the other. So he said to me, he was like, here's what I do, okay? Basically, instead of trying to play like all spread across the keys, I basically just like divert half my hand. So he said, instead of having like your whole left hand on top of here, just cover 2 keys, right? And then you can just play 5 key with 3 fingers, and it's really easy, okay? So I started playing like that. I was like, okay, I'll listen to Zythar, you know, he's better than me, so I should obviously take his advice. So I started playing like so. So to lift it up, it was like this, okay? So it was like index, so middle and index on 1 and 2, and then just using 3 fingers for the part here for the last 5 keys. I went, hey, wow, this works really well. This is really good, right? And slowly but surely, Zythar finally invested into buying Shock Horror, guys. Wait for it. Wait for it. Zythar invested in the greatest thing ever. A JKOC. The first time I saw a JKOC, my eyes just lit up. I was like, oh my god, it's an actual Beatmania controller. It's not a crappy keyboard that we're both playing on like all the time. So for the next section, I'm gonna have to pull out the JKOC because this is where all of the magic happened on this thing here. Okay, so he bought a JKOC and he had a USB adapter, PS2 to USB, because he likes playing RPGs on his computer. So he started playing on a legitimate controller, and I just said, wow, you know, this thing is amazing. Like, I don't know how you could get any better than this, you know, like, it looks so cool. It's like, you know, it's got the real turntable and everything. So we started learning to play on this thing, and funnily enough, when we transitioned to the controller, I still played like this. And scratching was just stupid. I couldn't scratch for the life of me, okay? So I used to play like this. You know, playing them light 7s, playing Akito stuff. Eventually, because Zythar had a modded PS2 as well, which was really rare at that time. He had a modded PS2, and he started importing the games. So he imported 6th style, the last CS style that was ever going to come out. And he said, alright, well, this is like the last one, so I got this, it's really neat. And wow, holy crap, it was so hard. Like, I could not believe how hard the game was on a controller. And, playing on, legitimate timing and all of that. I was like, holy crap, this is the most amazing thing. And, obviously, so he had the controller, he had the official games. So I actually went over to his house a lot. And when I wasn't at his house, I was practicing on my keyboard. He managed to find the files for, like, what was it? I think it was like 1st style or 2nd style or 3rd style, something like that. So really easy files that I could actually practice on. And he managed to find the 9th style files. It's like, this is the newest version that's come out. So I started playing basically when 9th style AC was just like the hot thing. So, he got the 9th style files for me. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna beast through these files, playing 2s and 3s. So I kept playing like this on a keyboard, and then when I went to Zythar's house, I'd come over to his house and I'd start playing on his arcade style controller. And I got good, but I hit a wall around like 4s and 5s. And this is also around the time when, like, players like Agop were huge, and he was like, watch Agop play. You think that what we're doing is cool. Then he showed me the Safari, and I went, that's impossible. How does anyone do the Safari? Like, it's so dense. It's just like garbage walls the whole way through. And he was like, yeah, and he manages to do quite well. Then he showed me videos of Agop doing, like, what was it? Holic Another, AAA failing Holic Another. I was like, oh my god, how does he do it so well? And, this is when I started theory crafting about technique, whereas he didn't. He's, as you know, a little bit autistic, so he stuck to his ways. And he stayed playing like this. So instead of using, index and middle, he swapped to using his thumb, because he said it's more comfortable, you're always at the scratch, no problem. So you can just play like this the whole time. The cat's getting a little bit excited, and she's come to say hi. So I said, there's a lot of problems with this style, because, you're relying so heavily on 3 fingers to cover 5 keys. It doesn't really make any sense. Like, suddenly I started to realize, okay, when you watch AGOP, he doesn't stay static like that, and he, you know, he can hit basically everything. So I said, what can I do to make a difference? You know, how can I pull ahead on this? Because obviously if I keep playing like this, I'm going to have a lot of troubles like later on. So what I did on keyboard, so coming right across back to keyboard, was I started playing like this, just flat. Flat, you know, 2 fingers here which move like across the keys, and basically just try and hit whatever. And at the start, oh, it was so terrible. I couldn't do anything, but you know, I kept to it, I kept to my guns, and I kept like trying to hit the keys. And oh my god, the cat's just being so annoying. Come here, kitty. Right, so I kept to my guns, I started hitting the keys, right, and slowly but surely it started to feel more and more like Stepmania. Like, I started to hit more accurately and I could do more combos. And what actually happened was I slingshot, you know, within the period of a month. I went from just clearing 4s using Zythar's technique to clearing 7s and 8s, okay? And when I started, I just hit the light. When I started playing on his controller, I said, okay, hang on. So on the controller, 2 fingers on each key isn't really going to cut it. So I moved 1 step up. This is when double claw was born. Double claw is the technique I spoke about in the technique video, where I started hitting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like so, and then covering the middle button with my index finger, because that's what I was used to on the keyboard. And using that technique, I started to clear stuff like sync, like, oh, what else? I cleared Frozen Ray and things like that, and Zythar got really pissed. It was like, how are you clearing all this really hard stuff all of a sudden? And I said to I said to him, I said, it's because I'm, you know, I'm thinking about techniques. I'm thinking about how I can actually hit the keys more efficiently, whereas you're sticking to your, you know, your pattern like this, and it's not working. And he got really annoyed and he said, okay, well, you know, I'm just going to practice more and I'll get better. And he did. Like, he eventually did get better, but I'd really slungshot because I started to think about techniques and I started to put in the effort to try and, you know, mold a technique that would be able to hit more patterns. So this kept going, and this is when Zythar started like filming videos and stuff. And I really hope he has this. There's videos of me playing 6 style at my place on a JKOC, and this is when I was like the biggest noob. I was playing claw style. It's me getting a C on sync and me getting a B on era nostal, another, and that's what, like a 9. I cleared a 9 within like 3 months. So I was like so stoked. I was like, oh my god, yes, you know, I can do a flashing 7. And you know, Zythar got really annoyed because he could only clear like 5s and 6s at that time. So things kept progressing. Obviously 7th style came out. I wasn't familiar with any of the songs because obviously, you know, I didn't really play you know, I didn't really play official CS songs. I was playing, you know, BMS stuff on keyboard. So I kept getting better. If you see the keys on my keyboard, it's the funniest thing ever because the ZXCV SDF keys are all worn out. I don't have the videos, unfortunately, so I can't show you. I really wish I had them. So, you know, I kept playing on keyboard, kept playing 7th style, sort of, you know, at Zythar's house when I could. But the thing which was missing, and the major element was, I didn't have enough controller practice. I didn't have enough controller experience. So I was sort of, you know, a bit down, and I was like, okay, well, where can I play on a controller? And I found there was one AC machine which had just got the newest and biggest thing, which was Beatmania 10th style. 10th style had just come out. Everyone was raving about it. They were like, oh my god, it's massive, it's beautiful, the timing is really shitty, but it doesn't matter because, you know, it's got all these great songs, you know, like, fuck, I'm trying to think, Frozen, oh, fuck, what is it? It's the one by Twin Amadeus. This is also the era where Doll came out, and Doll was like the biggest fucking thing in the world. So everyone was playing Doll, everyone was playing, you know, all of these new amazing songs. Lucy got whored the fuck out. So I went to this place and I saw all these people who were playing 8s and 9s, and I went, wow, holy crap, you know, there's so many good players here, it's amazing. And you know, I watched guys I watched a guy play the King course and it just blew my mind. I was like, how does anyone do that? Incredible. Yeah, there was a guy who could clear innocent walls with someone else scratching. So it wasn't him scratching. But, you know, I admired them so much. And I said, guys, how do you play this game so well? And they're like, well, you know, it's really in the technique. You need a good technique. And I said, well, what are you doing? Because I'm doing this. And that's working. And I said, oh, no, okay. Biggest thing you've got to do, you've got to start using your thumbs, okay? And he said, I play like this, you know, and then I swap for scratching. And that just glued in my mind. From that moment, I went, okay, so I've got to use thumbs exactly like this dude, because he can fucking clear innocent walls. So, I got to it. At home, I tried to use thumbs, I went, this is dumb, so I kept playing the way I did. But, you know, the machine that I was playing on was like an hour away from my home. And, like, I said, oh, it's so far away, I've got, like, barely any chance to go and play it. People from the States were, like, roaring at me. They're like, fuck you, we have to travel 3 states just to see a machine. You can go to one in 1 hour. Go and play on it more. But back then it was, like, you know, $2 per play. I had my keyboard at home, so I was like, well, I'm just going to stick to that. But, eventually, and this was an absolute miracle. I don't know how this happened. One day when I went to my arcade, they'd done an overhaul, and I walked in one day. Complete to my disbelief, they had a Beatmania 2DX cabinet. And, you know, this is an arcade 20 minutes from my house by a tram, and I was speechless. I could not believe that there was a new, like a pretty much new Beatmania 2DX cabinet at an arcade so close to me. Played dull, failed it out of excitement, just went, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I don't care that I wasted $1, we've got a 2DX machine, like, in a place where I can constantly play it. So this is, you know, when I'm 14 or 15, right? 10 style, just come out, big time, right? Brand new 2DX machine. This is when shit got real, because this is when I stopped playing double claw and actually started using thumbs, okay? So first and foremost, I brought my thumb onto 5, and this was around the time, I started getting much better. I started clearing, like, at the time, flashing 8s. So I managed to do Lucy, I managed to do Love, Love, Shine, things like that, like hypers. So I was getting better slowly, just because, you know, we had a machine, we had somewhere where I could play with people. And so that time passed very quickly. I played a lot. I went there, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, and at home I just played so much. I played so much. And around the time that 2DX Red came out, you know, this was like the thing which no one had seen anything of. You know, 2DX Red was the big thing. You know, it hadn't been released in Japan. We pushed the owner so hard. We're like, you have got to get this style. It is amazing. You know, it looks so good. 2DX Red is the shit. So the owner said, okay, there's a lot of people playing this game right now, so we may as well invest in it. We got 2DX Red about a month after launch, and oh my god, when I saw it, you know, the score graphs, the red decals, the change to, like, all of the system, having flashing 8s, I was like, this is the bomb. Oh my god, you know, I'm gonna play this so much, and oh did I play it. This is around the time where I'd completely transitioned from double claw to using thumbs, like so. So, it was basically double claw with just the thumbs thrown in as well, so I could cover every key. So instead of having one key, you know, empty, I started hitting all the keys. So I started using my left thumb really early, and it really started to pay off with playing harder stuff, because when we first got it, to give you an idea of my skill level, I was just managing to clear AA Hyper. Clearing AA Hyper was really hard back then. Everyone was like, holy shit, that is the hardest song. You know, I don't know how you can manage to do that. Obviously also 8 style CS came out. And this was around the time when I managed to convince my parents to buy me a JKOC. And then, on top of that, all of the red BMS came out. So I had the red BMS, I had the 10th BMS, and on top of that I had a controller. And that was around the time where I just went insane. And when I say insane, I mean I played as soon as I came home from school until I went to bed, and that was like midnight or 1 o'clock. So I would play the game for about 8 hours, a stretch of 8 hours of just 2DX on a controller at home, on my crappy laptop, on my crappy simulator, which at the time they just brought out SSR Max, so it was beautiful. It had like the same grates as the arcade, so I was like, oh, you know, legitimate grates. You can actually get a score which is relevant to the arcade. So I played SSR Max every day for 8 hours on a controller, and that's when I started to get really good. I cleared Gigadelic before anyone else in Australia, and you know, I started to progress very, very quickly because of that. Now, you know, after this point, you know, a lot of players started to drop off, and in the end, it was only like me and Zythar who were playing. And you know, 2 people for 1 machine doesn't sound very good, but you don't understand how much I played. I played the shit out of it every day. Okay, so kept progressing, kept getting better and better and better. I started getting better at timing because I was becoming more consistent at doing this because I was doing it every day. And eventually, around 2005, so this is when I'm 15, 16, we got Happy Sky. And of course, Happy Sky, I'd followed from the very beginning. I'd seen all of the content slowly released from the location test. I'd seen all of the, all of the new stuff coming from Japan. I watched every video, and yeah, it just, you know, it was so amazing. I couldn't believe it. Someone released the Happy Sky skin, all of the Happy Sky files started to get released, so I was like, oh boy, this is it. This is when I'm gonna like get to play everything new. Zephyr was so cool, and like, I couldn't wait. I was so stoked. So when our arcade got Happy Sky, that's when shit started to really, really change. I went from being, you know, an average player who was getting Bs on level 8s to suddenly double Aing 10s. And that's when I started to get like more noticed, because, you know, Zythar would post on VJ Army and say, hey, there's this guy at my arcade, you know, you guys have seen him play a little bit, but he doesn't really post. He can like double A EXE another and hard clear it. And back then people were like, whoa, shit, there's someone who can double A level 10 songs, that's kind of crazy. So, you know, Zythar started, like, he made me a VJ Army account. He was like, okay, I'm gonna make you an account, and the next time you come over, just play on CS, and we'll see how you do. And up to this point, this is the crazy thing, up to this point I'd never got any AAAs, okay? I played up to about level 11 difficulty without ever actually getting AAAs, because the timing on AC was ridiculous. The timing on SSR Max, I tweaked with. Funnily enough, I tweaked with it so that the timing would actually be more difficult, because I thought, okay, if I play on stricter timing at home, I'll get better at timing, and at the arcade I'll do better. And it sounds crazy, but it actually made a lot of sense to me. So I didn't focus on timing for the first maybe year and a half of playing. I didn't look at timing at all. I just focused on reading and comboing. And after that year stretch, once I started playing on AC, my scores were really good. Like, I was getting above 83, 84 on most things. So, you know, I kept at it. I kept playing, you know, the same way, religiously, relentlessly, learning how to scratch and things like that, bringing my thumb across. And eventually, and this was really late, this was like when I was 17, I finally managed to get Loserbait to mod my PS2. And I started getting copies of the official 2DX games. And this is when I went from being sort of on my own. Like, I'd just been playing on my own. I didn't really care about anybody else. I was just focusing constantly on my own stuff. This is when my competitive streak started. And this is when I started to actually take the game competitively, because I could actually compare my scores to other people. Because before that, I had no baseline for comparison. Like, I played at the arcade where the timing's balls, and then I came back home and I played on simulators, so there was no way to compare with people. So I started competing with people. The first guy was like SMBoo. I remember him. He was not too bad. And this is around the time when I started to get AAAs. Now, the first AAA I ever got, funnily enough, was not a Light 7. It wasn't a Hyper. It was High Another. Okay? And like that's not the easiest thing to AAA. Like, it's actually pretty hard. But when I saw a AAA on a 9, I went, well, what the fuck? Like, how did I AAA a 9? And mind you, as well, the timing was fucked at the arcade. It was like super early. So when I came to Zarthar's house, I had to adjust to the timing, and then suddenly I was like, this is so easy. I don't know how, like, you guys play on this timing and not get AAAs. Like, it's so easy compared to, like, anywhere else. So when I finally got the styles at home, I started playing on CS. My goal was just to AAA as much shit as possible. I was like, yeah, I can AAA stuff. You know, a lot of people can't do that. So, you know, I was whoring shit like Quasar, like Daisuke, like Lucy, like those sort of easier level 8s to try and AAA them. And I started posting on VJ Army, and I started to get noticed because suddenly I was climbing the rankings. And around the time that Red CS came out was when I started to get really, really, really good. So I'm going to swap across now to my screen and show you a video. This is from 7 years ago. Okay? 7 years ago. This was the first video I ever put on YouTube. Okay? Now, back in that time when Red CS came out, obviously it was still Happy Sky AC. Like, DD hadn't been released yet. It had been announced, but it wasn't out. I was at the point where I could AA and clear Scorpion Fire. And, you know, when I did this, I really, really stood out, because there was only 2 or 3 other people who could do this at the time. And that was Chicken Snack, that was Hood, and who else was it? And Seastar Flare. You know, there was only 3 people who could do this. And then on top of that, I managed to get AA down. A AA, and people were like, holy shit, that's like the densest thing in the world. It's impossible. So once this started happening, this is when I started ranking like always top 5 in VJ Army. And I was close. I was like, yes, I'm a really good player now. I've just got to keep pushing it. I've got to keep pushing it to try and be the best. And this is around the time when players like Toph started to show up, and players like Gabe and Limey, no, not Limey, like Linus started to like really, really become exceptionally good. So there were a lot of players around my level, and this is when I started to get really, really competitive. I compared all of my scores to Toph. I compared all of my scores to Gabe. Well, not Gabe at the time. Gabe was good, but he wasn't as good at timing as I was. So Red was when I started to see a lot of AAAs on harder stuff, like level 10s. And I was like, oh boy, okay, I can AAA harder stuff now. I was still getting mediocre scores on 11s, but obviously that's because 11s are much more complicated. But you know, I was able to play all the dense stuff, and you don't know how much 10 style I played to get this good. I hard cleared all of 10 style. So I literally played 10 style to death. Like, I played everything non-stop. Alright, let me just swap back here. So, you know, me and my JKOC, we were the bomb. I did everything with the controller. It was just, yeah, it was a magical time where I'd play 2DX day in, day out. And, oh man, it just, like, to be competing with people, to be, you know, in a situation where, you know, I could actually rank, I got very, very excited, and I got very, very competitive. And it was a good time. Like, Red CS was a very, very good time. And that's when, you know, my scores started to race slowly but surely towards AAAs. And when Happy Sky CS came out, we had Happy Sky at the arcade. And then we got the CS version. I was like, oh boy, okay, I can play the same songs as the arcade at home. And when it came out, I was like, okay, I'm just going to nail everything. Then day one, I'm going to be a beast and try and beat everyone. And then of course Chicken Snack had to post going, "Hey guys, look, I got 96 on Poodle." And I went, "What?" 96? Or 97. It was so ridiculously high. Chicken Snack obviously at this point had become like amazing. So I went, okay, holy crap, I've got to try and catch up here. So I played Happy Sky a lot as well. So, you know, I'd been playing Red a lot. I'd gotten to the point where I could double A12s. And then all of a sudden you've got Happy Sky, which for one had a different timing window. For two, just I didn't really like Happy Sky CS, and I don't know why exactly. I think that it really broke me as a player. Yeah, pretty much. So obviously, I found out the reason why is because Happy Sky is where things started getting really crazy. This is when they threw in May, when they threw in, what's that one, Blue Mirage. That was so dumb. And Scripted Connection Long Mix. This is when like 2DX started to take a turn and become more difficult than it was. And you know, I was still up there. I was one of the first people to aim A, and I was one of the first people to clear Blue Mirage, but still, like, all these other players started coming up, becoming better than I was, and I was still pushing as hard as I was, as 2DX 10 style and 2DX Red, so I was getting really frustrated. I was like, why can't I time well? Why is Happy Sky so shit? And, you know, I was getting better, but it was around this time, and this was when I was 18, you know, I'd just gone through high school. High school wasn't a very great time, but, I started getting really depressed with the game because, and this is a point I want to make for everyone, I started comparing myself too much to other people. All of my rivals on Happy Sky were top rankers. All of my rivals on VJ Army, I was constantly monitoring their scores. I was always comparing, always going, I need to be better than so and so. I've got to like keep pushing it. I was very arrogant, and I got burnt out. I got really, really burnt out on Happy Sky. Like, you know, it was around for a year and a half, but it got to a point where I just felt like I'm not going to get any better at this game. You know, I reached a wall which is, you know, it's a relatively high wall. I mean, holy shit, I was doubling 12s, but, you know, I looked at players like C-Star, I looked at players like Chicken, and I just went, holy crap, I'm never going to reach that level. You know, it's just insane. AAA and 12s, the amount of time you need to do that is just incomprehensible. Obviously, you know, there was In the Sky, which I AAA'd, but I was like, it's in the sky. Like, it's not a 12. So I got really disheartened around Happy Sky. I stopped playing as much. I started going out with my friends more, you know, doing normal social stuff. And it's mainly because, you know, I was very isolated. The only players in Australia at that point were me and Zythar, so I felt very discouraged. And, you know, Zythar at this point, he hadn't progressed nearly as fast as me. He was clearing like 8s and 9s around the time that I was doubling 10s. Doubling 12s. So there wasn't really much comparison. There was no real local competition for me. It was all online. All the people online were basically better than me at that point. So I started just like collapsing. I was like, I can't keep playing this game as hard as I'm doing it now. I've got to take it more easy. So first year university, I didn't play nearly as much because there wasn't, you know, many people who were playing at that point. So enter DJ Joey. DJ Joey. Oh man. DJ Joey was one of my friends from university. He saw music games and he'd never really tried them, and he used to go to the same arcade as me, but he'd never tried Beatmania, and he said, game looks cool, fucking hard, don't get it. I said to him, oh, I play it all the time at home, I can show you how to play it if you want. So we became like reasonably good friends, and you know, I lent him one of my crappy controllers. I got a Rave Discman which I was going to disassemble, which I did eventually disassemble, then Nico got it. But I gave him my Rave Discman. I was like, you can practice playing on this, you can burn any style that I have and you can start learning, no problem. So DJ Joey started playing, and he didn't just start playing at home, he started playing AC. So all of a sudden I was like, hey, there's someone who I can meet up with, and there's someone who I can play with and talk with that's not Zythar. So we started, like, we'd go to uni together, we'd study, then we'd go to the arcade and we'd play 2DX together. And it was the start of something really great. And that was when, you know, I could actually have someone else who I could hang out with, talk to, play the game, enjoy it with other people. And this is when I started to play a fair bit more. So Distorted era, oh man, that was a glorious era, because as I said, I burnt myself out on Happy Sky CS. So all of a sudden, you know, Distorted comes in, not just on CS, we also got it on AC, like at the same time, because it was the last, you know, one that we could actually upgrade to. So we got Distorted AC, we got Distorted CS, and oh, that was a magical time, because like I got so burnt out on Happy Sky, I needed something sort of refreshing, and DD really delivered, because it had the new unlock system, it had a great set of songs. I've got to admit, like, Distorted was incredible in terms of content. Like, if you compare Happy Sky to Distorted, there's no comparison. So I started to get into it more again. This is when stuff like Quell came out. Oh, fucking Quell. Like, when I double-A Quell, I was like, alright, I'm champion of the universe, no one else can do it. You know, 3 other people managed to do it. And then, of course, enter Hood, enter Shala, enter the time when VJ Army started getting a little bit weird. Like, the player base sort of shifted towards in-jokes, and it wasn't a very good time to be posting, so I just stopped fucking posting. I was like, I can't keep up with your memes and your in-jokes. There's just too many. So I stopped posting. I shifted my focus from being really competitive out in online to just being a social player in Box Hill. And this is around the time, so Distorted AC, Distorted CS, this is around the time that Nico started coming to the arcade. Oh, Nico, god damn it. And Gokun started playing around this time. So this is like 2007, 2008. You know, I was still top dog. There weren't any players in Melbourne who were as good as me at that time. So, you know, I was just relaxed. I was playing with people. I enjoyed going, because, you know, there was now 4 of us. There were 4 people who came and played 2DX. There was a line to play. I was like, this is a golden era. You know, this is a great time for 2DX. So that continued, and that went on all throughout my undergraduate. I met up with Nico and Gokun and Joey. We'd go play 2DX, we'd get some food, we'd come back, we'd play some more. It was a good time, right? And obviously from there, I started to slip competitively. Like, I didn't really care as much about competing with everyone, because, you know, Hood and Shala were just too freaking good at this stage. I was like, there's no way I could touch them, alright? I'm not going to bother trying to be the very best. I'm just going to enjoy hanging out with friends, playing 2DX. And that was when my mentality really shifted for the game, and I just went, okay, you know, I've got to take the game as something to enjoy, not just something to compete with everyone else. And I actually got a lot more out of it at that stage. That's when I started AAA and 12s. It was amazing. Like, as soon as I snapped and I just went, you know what, screw everyone else, just enjoy the game. And I started, you know, just playing for my own enjoyment. I started to get more out of it, and I started to improve again. I broke that wall, you know, that wall where I couldn't get any better because I just burnt myself out. I'd changed my mindset, and that's the thing which I think most players will need eventually. They need to swap out from just constantly comparing to other people and just realize it's a game, it's something which you should enjoy, and if you're not having fun with it, just put it down for a bit. You don't need to play 2DX every day. You know, you'll come back, you'll slingshot, it'll be fine. Okay? So, you know, that happened. You know, all of a sudden, you know, CS style started rolling out half yearly, and I was like, wait, whoa, wait, we're gonna get gold like 6 or 7 months after? What the hell, man? Like, I haven't even finished with this style yet. Okay, I had finished. I hard cleared all of gold, but, you know, all of a sudden, like, you know, gold came out, and Troopers just, you know, flew out by 2009. And then, you know, of course we had Empress, which was the biggest thing ever. And, you know, I'd stopped playing competitively. I'd stopped really, like, trying to play the game hard. And when Empress came out, I said, you know what? You know, this is the last style. This is the last CS style we're going to see, 2DX is probably going to die at this point. Because I understood, once CS stops rolling out, you're going to stop seeing as many people playing the game. So I said, this is the time where I'm just going to knuckle down. I'm going to play my absolute best, and I'm going to put in scores for everything, which I hadn't done for the past, 3 styles. I'd played, but I didn't really care. So I was just like, alright, I'll put in the occasional score, but... Because VJ Army became so elitist, where the top players were like, oh, I don't want to put in a score if it's, not ridiculously good. It was really intimidating at that time to post, so I just stopped putting scores in, because I was like, well, shit, I can rank, 4th or 5th, but there's 4 other players who clearly have a better score than me, so there's no point. But for Empress, I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to put all of my scores in. I don't care. I just want to, have a record of how well I was doing at this point. So I played that. This is also the time where, I played through all of Empress. Then my card got wiped. I got really pissed off. So I decided, alright, this is where I need to do a technique overhauls again. And mind you, my technique was fine. Playing like this, playing like Nutty, like that, it was fine. There was no problem. I could AAA 12s. The problem was stamina. I ran out of stamina so fast. When things like, what's it called? Thunder Black came. Oh, it was impossible, because I just did not have the stamina to play like this the whole time. So I swapped to my pinky finger at that stage, and I found, wow, I can hit patterns a lot longer without getting tired. Because my forearms used to just die from playing so much. So that really helped, swapping to the pinky finger. Then, what year is this around? 2010 I stopped playing again. I didn't really care about the game as much. Empress basically was it. The game started dying after that, and the community started to go on the back haul, just because there was nothing new coming out. It wasn't really exciting. So that happened, and then suddenly, there's not many players. There's not really much point in me getting better. I can AAA, AA. I can get most of the hard 12s AA. It was good enough. I was happy where I was in terms of skill. Okay. Now this is around the time where we got Empress AC as well. I pushed for the arcade to upgrade from Distorted, because I said it's so outdated now. We have 3 styles ahead on on CS. We've got to upgrade, and the guy said, I can't upgrade. We've got this hardware block. Once you got this hardware, you're screwed. You need to find new hardware, and that's basically impossible, because no one knew anything about Vermani PCs back then. So we were like, alright, fuck, what are we going to do? So I got in contact with a dude in America who said, I'm making kits. I'm making arcade kits which you can install and you can run new styles on. It costs $3,000 to get the kit. I was like, whoa, holy shit, $3,000 and we can get a new style. Told the arcade owner, he was like, that's fine. If it means more business, if it means you guys will keep playing, that's fine. I will shell out $3,000. When you think about it in hindsight, $3,000 for a shitty computer and a HDD. We got majorly ripped off, man. But, back then, didn't matter. It meant CS timing on AC, it meant so much. And when it finally came in, oh man, AC just completely changed. It went from being something that's sort of niche, because distorted timing is garbage. It's so hard. Going from that to basically what CS timing was, the game really changed for a lot of people. It became more serious. You're like, holy shit, now I have to AAA things at the arcade, I've got to play on par with at home. And this is, CS was around the time when Gokren started getting pretty good. He started getting, double A's on 10s, and, you started to see this guy, Butler, who came out of nowhere, this guy who could ace Setsugeku on distorted timing. Suddenly appear, it's like, holy shit, there's good players now. So, that was a good era, getting Empress. That was 2009. 2010, we got Sirius. Oh man, Sirius. Serious was probably the best time for 2DX in Australia. I mean, we had good players around the time of Serious. Butler became insane. He became better than me. Gokun started getting really good. He could clear Almagest, I couldn't. So suddenly we had like this even 3-player field where you've got 3 people who are really good in one area. And it became competitive again. It was fun. And, you know, I was still in there. But obviously I wasn't playing nearly as competitive as I was before. So, no, it was a really good time because we had so many people who were at a level where we could compete. Joey was Joey. He was too cool for 2DX. So he'd play, but if anyone asked him about it, he's like, oh, I don't play at all. So, yeah, a bit stupid. Anyway, I've been talking for almost an hour, so I'm going to try and like speed through the last couple of years really fast. So, okay, we have Serious. We didn't get Resort Anthem because our contact had disappeared. What was his name? It was like CMCM, something like that. He disappeared, so we couldn't get the Resort Anthem data. So we're like, well, shit, I guess we're just stuck with Serious. But that's okay, because Serious was awesome, man. So good. So, you know, we had Serious, we had it offline, it was working fine, it was all good. But around 2012, yeah, so 2 years ago, I said, well, you know, through my effort I managed to get Serious in, so why don't I just try and get, you know, the next thing in, Linkle, you know? Like, it's alright. I'm sure there's someone out there who has an upgrade, like an upgrade HDD for AC. And this is when I met Tao, and oh man, getting Linkle to work was the biggest piece of shit. It was so hard. Oh. Like, I was helping the guy do it. I'm not in charge of it anymore. Other people deal with upgrades now, but when we got Linkle, that's when everything changed. Because EMUs was a dream. EMUs was a dream that I thought we'd never realise in Australia. And then we got it. And that's when I started to sort of funnel back into the community, because suddenly, you know, I could compare directly to AC players from the States. Enter, you know, like VGTA came back, we had Tyso, we had people like that. Okay, soon. Obviously the Finks came out of nowhere. I'm like, who's this Finks guy? Man, he's like as good as I am. What the hell? Like, he's just come out of nowhere. So, you know, I started to notice the American players a bit more, and the American players started to notice us a bit more, because suddenly, you know, you've got this new arcade with Linkle, you've got players who can rank, you know, top 5 on most of the hard stuff, and, you know, things started to look up a bit, and I was like, hey, it's pretty good. Okay, last minute and a half, I'll just summarize Japan. Came to Japan, hadn't really played 2DX, like, you know, very seriously, but, you know, in the past 2 years, I've met a lot of amazing players. I've met, you know, like JDR, I've met Nozomi, people like that. Players who are exceptionally good, like better than most of the American players. And it's given me motivation to keep pushing and sort of realize there's more, you know, you can do better than how you're doing. It's also because the game's progressed since I sort of stopped playing it as seriously. So, you know, I kept pushing. Like, and I'm still pushing now to try and get better, and it's really paying off. Like, I've broken barriers. And I guess final sort of thing on this hour-long spiel about 2DX. I find after about 10 years of playing, I still love playing it. It's not something which I think is ever going to go away entirely in my life. Like, it's a game which I can always pick up, I can always enjoy. It's something which I can always come back to and always feel great playing. And, you know, like, obviously everyone has a down point where you go and play something else, but when you've become, you know, so addicted to 2DX over such a long period, it stays with you. Like, it's an important part. Like, JKOC, the one that I've got back at home, I would never sell it, like, for anything. Like, it's just such an integral part of history that, you know, it's not going to ever part from my house. You know, it's something which I'm always going to own. It's something I'm always going to love. So, you know, 10 years or more playing this game, and I'm still here. I'm still playing it. It's still really enjoyable. And even though so much has changed since like the start till now, the game is still incredibly fun. It's still something which, like, I don't know, I still get, you know, excited to play. And, you know, I'm 10 years older now. I never would have imagined in 10 years I'd still be playing this game. So that's the story of the start till now. It took an hour to tell. I can't believe it. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them, because Mai's getting hungry, so I've got to feed her. Thank you very much for listening, by the way. It's really good to know that people actually care about this story. So yeah, any questions before I wrap up this stream? Anything? I'll be waiting. Oh, while I'm waiting for questions, I'll put my DAO back up. DJ DAO controllers is an interesting story. When I like just finished with Empress, someone donated me, and I'm not joking. They just like outright gave me a real edition, because he was like, "Well, I'm buying a doubles controller, and I don't have the space to have both my doubles controller and my real edition, so take my real edition." I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, just take it." So I got a free ASC, which was pretty sweet. But that actually, interestingly, yeah, okay, about the DJ DAO. So when I got the DJ DAO, I actually hated playing it. I hated playing 2DX after that point, because transitioning from playing on a KOC to a DAO is a massive step. People don't realize this like 2 inches or whatever, like going from 1 inch to 2 is huge for playing. Like, okay, I grew up on AC, so it wasn't that much of a problem, but I found that having an ASC makes you more serious about playing. You actually play harder. So, you know, when you try and play on an ASC, I found you got to use a lot more energy than a KOC. So transitioning to the DAO, suddenly I was like, this fucking sucks. I've actually got to try every time I'm playing. And this is also around the time where, you know, I wasn't as motivated. So I was like, okay, so I've actually got to hit the keys a lot more, you know, not with a lot more force, just, you know, like I've got to commit to my presses a lot more. With a KOC, you can just like roll over it and it's like no problem. Oh, the other thing which I didn't mention was BMS. I might have to cover that in another video though, because this is getting really long. But yeah, yeah, transitioning to an ASC is very difficult. It takes a lot of practice, and especially because a lot of people's techniques, when you're playing on a KOC, don't really transition across well. So for example, like Don took a long time to transition to AC, just because he was playing prong. He still plays prong, which is fine, but you know, to do AC scratch, you can't prong an AC scratch. So you know, it took me a little while to get used to it. I was already playing AC, so it wasn't a problem, but I found I was less motivated when I had a DAO, which is really funny, because you'd think it'd be the other way around. But interestingly, in this generation, you find, you know, DAO is the standard. People won't buy KOCs anymore because they're so scarce, whereas back then, KOCs were the only affordable thing that you could play 2DX on. So, you know, DAO is now the standard for everyone to play on, which is really good. It's also great that, like, you know, people can play Tricoro at home, because it means that, you know, CS is revived. There's a system where everyone's even, and everyone can talk, and everyone can compare, which we haven't had in, you know, 3 years. So, great time. Like, this is the next revival for 2DX for me and a lot of people, just because there's, you know, there's EMUs, well, there's P World, there's P Sun, and that's brought the game back. It really has. Like, I feel like the community is a lot more active than it was a few years ago. Okay, someone's just asked, where do I reside? I live in Japan, central Japan. In you know, Tokyo's on the eastern side. You've got like Osaka and Kyoto. I'm in between like Tokyo and Osaka. There's a place called Nagoya, and then if you go an hour out from Nagoya, you've got Toyohashi. I live in Toyohashi, which is like the second biggest port town in Japan, and I've lived here for about 2 years. Obviously I play a lot of 2DX here, so yeah, it's a great place to live. It's very comfortable and I really enjoy it, and I'd recommend anyone to do it. Any other questions? Oh, that's nice. Yes? Okay, the Mai-chan is hungry, so I'm gonna take one last like question or something like that, and then that's it. Like that's all I can really talk about. Oh, okay, nice. So you live in Tokyo. That's nice to know. Alright. So any last questions? Anything? Well, okay, I guess that's it for me for my hour-long spiel about my 2DX experience. I could probably go into more depth than this, which is the scary part. But that's basically... It's the story nicely told. Okay? So that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to know anything else, feel free to message me or leave a comment on the YouTube video, and I'll get back to it with as much detail as I can. Once again, if there's any content you want me to cover, please let me know once again through the comments or through messaging me. That's it for now, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.